You know, most business books, they sell you some kind of secret formula for success, right? Well, today, we're throwing that playbook out the window. We're diving into a book that does the exact opposite. We're going to break down Ben Horowitz's brutally honest founder's manual, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, a guide for when everything goes horribly wrong.
And this quote, man, it gets right to the heart of it. This is not some feel-good story about chasing your dream. Nope. This is about what you do when that dream turns into a total nightmare. It's a real, in-the-trenches survival guide for the messy, chaotic reality of building something from nothing.
So what makes this book so radically different? Well, it's because it acknowledges a simple truth that most others just ignore. All that management theory is great until your company is metaphorically on fire, and that fancy rulebook is basically just kindling. And this is where Horowitz introduces this brilliant concept of the wartime CEO. This isn't the leader you see during the good times, the one focused on expansion and market dominance. That's what he calls a peacetime CEO. The wartime CEO, well, they're in a dogfight for the company's very survival against impossible odds, and that requires a completely different mindset.
To really, truly understand these lessons, you have to understand the brutal experiences that forge them. This isn't stuff he learned in a classroom. This isn't theory, it's scar tissue.
So the story starts here. Horowitz co-founds a company called LoudCloud, right at the absolute peak of the dot-com mania. Perfect timing, right? Yeah, wrong. The bubble bursts, their stock completely collapses, and they are staring directly into bankruptcy. So in 2002, he makes this insane, high-stakes pivot to a new company, Opsware, which, well, it ultimately leads to an incredible outcome about 5 years later. And the payoff for all that struggle? After years of relentless fighting and near-death experiences for the company, Horowitz sold Opsware to Hewlett-Packard for $1.6 billion in cash. Now, that wasn't luck. That was the direct result of making one agonizing, gut-wrenching decision after another. I mean, just think about that for a second. To save the company, he sold off the part that was generating nearly all of its revenue. There's no business school case study on the planet that tells you to do that. And this right here, this impossible decision with no easy answer, that's exactly what the hard thing is all about. So, you go through all of that. What do you learn? Well, that brings us to the core philosophies of the book, and every single one of them was forged in the fire of his experience. He gives a name to that feeling that every founder knows deep in their bones, the struggle. It's that constant, gut-wrenching pressure when you have no idea if you're going to make payroll. But the crucial point is this. Horowitz says that feeling is not a sign that you're failing. He says it's normal. It's actually part of the job. This breaks down those two leadership modes perfectly. A peacetime CEO, well, they can afford to build consensus and follow the playbook. But a wartime CEO has to give direct orders and make terrifying bet-the-company moves, because survival is the only thing that matters. You have to know which war you're fighting. Another core idea is this. Stop looking for a magic fix. So many founders get trapped searching for that one perfect hire or one new feature or that one marketing trick that's going to solve everything. Horowitz is here to tell you, flat out, it doesn't exist. So instead of silver bullets, he talks about lead bullets. Success isn't one magic shot. It's the cumulative result of doing the hard, grinding, totally unglamorous work every single day. It's the sheer weight of all the small, correct decisions you manage to make along the way. And all of that leads to these core principles. First, be radically honest. No more shit sandwiches where you hide criticism between fake praise. Second, hire for world-class strength, not just for an absence of weaknesses. And finally, understand that your real culture isn't about ping-pong tables. It's defined by your actions, specifically who you hire, fire, and promote. So this is way more than just philosophy. The book actually gives you a practical, hands-on toolkit for dealing with these unbelievably hard problems. Let's take one of the absolute hardest things a leader ever has to do: layoffs. Horowitz gives a brutally clear framework. First, get your own head right about the decision and don't delay it. Second, cut deep enough that you only have to do it once. Then, you train your managers so the message is clear and consistent. And finally, this is non-negotiable. The CEO must stand in front of everyone who remains and explain why, immediately.
So, here are some of the key takeaways you can act on. 1. Embrace the struggle. It's part of the job. Don't internalize the panic. 2. Hire for strengths. Find that person who is an absolute 10 out of 10 in the one skill that matters most. 3. Be honest. Build trust by delivering bad news directly and owning it. And 4, remember that culture is your strategy. It's defined by your toughest calls, not the slogans on your wall.
So what does all this add up to? What's the final, really profound message here about the real job of a leader?
This is what it all comes down to. This book just redefines leadership. It's not about having all the solutions. It's about having the courage to make a decision when every single option you have is bad and there is no clear path forward.
Ultimately, the book turns the mirror back on you. It's easy to read all the theories and nod along, right? But the real test is how you act when things get truly hard. So the question isn't what you know, but what hard thing are you actually prepared to face?